Bonjour, everyone. It is Sue with Sue Has Retired to France on a shoestring, and it is Saturday, May 31st, the last day of May. And I wanted to give you guys an update on everything that has happened since I did my last video last Saturday. And I was originally intending to do a contemplative, kind of reflective video earlier this week, but I have no idea what I was thinking in terms of where I was going to find the luxury of time to sit there and not only take the mental space and editing space and uploading space and virtually all of that and get everything else done that needed to get done. So as I am talking through some of this, I will put up my to-do list that was from May 19th until basically yesterday or Thursday, I guess. Yeah, I don't think that I put yesterday, Friday in, but I'll tell you, this has been a fun challenge the entire time, but at the same time, if you've ever whitewater rafted, it's exactly like that, where it's fun and exhilarating, but it comes to a time where shit just hits the fan and you have to roll with it and you just have to get through it. And it's still fun, but it's also a total pain in the ass. But you're halfway through that whitewater rapids, so you can't stop now. You just have to keep going until you finally get to the calm water and you can go to the takeout spot and share your exhilaration and stories with everybody and then completely chill out and try to relax. So that's kind of what it's been like. So let's start with last weekend. From Sunday, Monday, and then early Tuesday morning, it was a whirlwind of trying to get specific things that had to get done within a time frame finished. For example, had to finish packing and sorting everything and getting it all into the conveyances that I was using to take everything to Europe. And that included the 2 dog crates and 2 dogs. It included a hard-sided, smaller suitcase and a monster size REI duffel bag that I purchased to go backpacking in New Zealand. Oh my gosh, 2 decades ago. But thank God I kept that and that I bought a really high quality duffel bag, because that thing turned out to be the workhorse for all of the other stuff that just wouldn't fit someplace else. So that was a lot of last Sunday and getting rid of smaller things. One of the quote unquote small things I needed to get rid of was my RV steps. And I put them on Facebook for free. And a lovely gentleman came and picked those up. He was going to come on Sunday, but he ended up coming on Monday. But I had already left by the time he came on Monday. All was good, though. It was pouring rain in the morning. There was a sweet spot in the afternoon of no rain, and then it started pouring again that night. And luckily, he was there in that small period of time. Very happy to have those out of the way. That said, Pippi has gone traveling in the RV before, so she hadn't done it in a very long time, but she was used to the RV steps, getting in and out of the RV. But not so Obi. He was completely curious and flummoxed as to what to do until he watched Pippi do the right thing, and it was kind of fun to see. Monday was a big day because I had to drive my car into Austin, which was about an hour drive, to sell it on Memorial Day. In Texas, dealerships are not allowed to be open both Saturday and Sunday. It's another Texas thing. So although they were open on Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, and I got there for my appointment, which I scheduled ahead of time like a smart person, 1 o'clock on Monday, they were absolutely slammed with tons of people that wanted weekend deals. And I understood that. I also explained to the woman that I had to pick up a rent car at 3 o'clock or I was going to get charged or they were going to give away my car. So she was fantastic and got me in only about 25 minutes after my appointment time. and they had me in and out of there within about 50 minutes. And one thing I was apprehensive about, I have used CarMax before and I've had a good experience with them, but I never quite trust when you get an offer in the mail ahead of time that they're actually going to honor that. So I handed over my piece of paper that I printed out with the QR code and all that good stuff, that this was my offer. And when she handed it back to me, I looked at it and I was expecting it to be about $1,000 less, because then we'd have to play that game. But it wasn't. It was exactly what they had offered me. So, hallelujah. And I had been a little bit worried that there was a deep gouge on the windshield. And that's what I was mostly worried about, that somehow, some way they were going to try to, like, screw me out of the deal by saying that they had to replace the windshield, but they didn't. They were fantastic. So CarMax, thank you, thank you, thank you for honoring your offer and for making it go very smooth. Another part to that, which was fantastic, is that they will, if you sell your car to them and you don't purchase another car at the same time, they will pay for a Lyft or an Uber, probably in other places, up to 60 miles away from the dealership so that you can get back home or wherever you needed to go. So I had the Lyft driver take me to the Austin airport. It was really good timing. I scheduled it to pick it up around 3 p.m. And I didn't even stop to think that that was kind of a lull time in the day for people that were arriving back from Memorial Day weekend flights. So good timing. If I'd gone later or early in the morning, it probably would have not been as much fun. But he was Mr. Speed Demon, which I did not mind. So he got me there very quickly. And then the turnaround with Hertz was mind-numbingly fast, not slow, fast. I was in and out of the rental car counter in less than 6 minutes, which never has happened before either. And that made it so that I could get back home at a reasonable time to do, of course, more last minute things that needed to get done on Monday night, which I did. And then Tuesday morning, I took the dogs to the boarding facility that they've both stayed at many a time for the morning. And I was waiting for my tow driver to come and pick up the RV at 9:30. I had confirmed the time with him 3 times before. The last time I confirmed it was on Sunday in the middle of the day, Memorial Day weekend. And he said, yes, I will be there at 9:30. I said, thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm going to be on a tight timetable to get down to Houston, and hope you have a great Memorial Day weekend. And he thanked me and we kind of went back and forth a little bit. Really nice guy. Tuesday morning, took the dogs. Friends came over because I had bought a box of croissants as kind of a going away to friends that lived in the park and other friends that came to visit that morning. And 9:30 came and went, 10 o'clock came and went, and I called the tow truck driver, and it was so obvious that he was dead asleep when I called him. So Maurizio probably had a little bit too much fun on Memorial Day, and he ended up not getting there until 1 p.m. And I had originally planned on leaving at noon. So I had to leave the dogs at the kennel for an extra hour. And then finally I was able to get out of there about 1:20. Once he showed up, I literally asked him if he needed anything from me besides the title and the keys, and he said no. So we just got in the car and we left. Didn't get into our hotel until probably around 6 or 7, because I did rent another electric car, and that was a really good choice because it was another Hyundai, and all of the instrumentation and everything was exactly like my Ioniq. So I kind of felt like I got a little bit of some luck there, because I already missed the car that I sold. But the fact that I didn't have to navigate how to configure a rental car, in addition to all the other mental stress that was going on, little things like that make a huge difference, I think, especially at times like this. So we got into Houston, got into our room, lovely room. The dogs were being fantastic. And in the middle of the night, I woke up in an absolute panic, wondering what the hell I was doing. And if I hadn't already sold my car and donated my house, there was a off chance that I was going to pull the plug on the entire thing and then just drive back home to Marble Falls. But I couldn't, because there wasn't any place to go to. Luckily, and I'm sure other people who have gone through this or that have gone through similar types of things can recognize that was just nerves talking. And by the time I woke up in the morning, I didn't have time to be nervous anymore because we had to go to the last day in the United States and all the things that that entailed. First thing in the morning, I got a message that Air France had to change the plane. So we were leaving an hour later in the afternoon. Not such a horrible thing. I was able to get an hour late checkout from the hotel. It gave me a lot more mental time to process things. It also gave me time to go through all of my things that I had brought with me in the duffel bag, and it was about 6 pounds over the maximum limit. And I really didn't want to pay over limit charges on a second check bag because I was originally only going to do one check bag. So I ditched a ton more stuff. The garbage area, because I can't call it a garbage can, the garbage area in that hotel room by the time we left had all sorts of things. And yes, some incredibly stupid things, like I took a Ziploc bag full of Sharpies. No idea why I thought I might need those, but sometimes your brain just does weird stuff. Once that was all sorted, it was time to go to the airport. And this is how it played out. The crates were disassembled before we went down to Houston because there's no way I could fit 2 monster-sized crates, 2 dogs, 2 suitcases, a backpack, and a huge, large tote bag in that car. So it all fit once I disassembled the crates. Once we got to the airport, I had prepaid for short-term parking. So I went and parked there. It had been pouring, pouring, pouring rain in Houston up until about half an hour before I needed to put those crates together. And of course, the only parking spaces were on the roof of the parking deck. So that was incredibly lucky that it wasn't raining anymore. And it was a cold front that came in. So while I was putting together the crates, it was in the low 70s, which is out of this world for Houston at the end of May. So serendipity in the universe was with us. Put together the crates, put the wheels on them, and then I put the bags on top and then started rolling those carts slowly, slowly, slowly to Terminal D in Houston. And it's only about a 6-minute walk normally, but it took about 15, maybe 20 minutes to get there because of having to use the elevators and go down longer hallways because of that, which I won't go into it right now, but that speaks to a whole different problem that people with disabilities have because they have extra barriers, not just in having to find an elevator, but also oftentimes having to have longer travel distances because of where the elevator is located. So we'll just leave that there. Get to the Air France check-in, and the woman who greeted me asked me if I had any carry-on baggage. And because I'm an honest person, I said, yes, I did, but it was still in the car because I was just checking in the dogs and the checked baggage, and then I was going to go back and get that and then go through security. She was telling me I couldn't do it. I almost had a meltdown. I was carrying my portfolio that had all the paperwork, every paperwork that I have right now. So basically my life, my passport, dog paperwork, knee paperwork, you name it, for everything that I will need in the coming months. And my little travel wallet that hangs around my neck. At one point she asked me, she said, is this your carry-on stuff? And I just said, yes, this is it. So she said, okay, go ahead. So I did. So I just stayed in line. Again, I was right at the point where it was the busiest. So get up to the counter, couldn't have had a nicer person. And then the TSA guy was also incredibly nice. And how they handle this, at least with Air France, and I'm going to do a different video for specifically on the dog handling process, but a little bit about that here in case anybody who's watching this is interested. With Air France, they look at all the paperwork that you have, the USDA certification paperwork. They look at the vaccination records. My person took screenshots of all of it with her phone. I don't know if she needed to or not, but she wanted to do that, and it was perfectly fine with me. And then she gave it all back to me to put in my portfolio for the people on the France side of the equation to look at it after customs. Got my bags checked in, got the dogs weighed, and then I had to take the dogs over to a different place. Luckily, it was literally 25 feet away, and they have kind of a station there that is for pets and probably other things, where it's not manned by a TSA person, but she called them. They came out. It only was probably about 6 or 7 minutes. The guy came out And the dogs have to get out of the crate, and then they wand down the dogs and they wand down the crate and they take out the crate pads, and he had to take out my Samsung air tags and look at them backwards and forwards, and then put them taped them back down where they had been. And I had put Obi in his Thunder shirt, and I was worried that they weren't going to let him do that, but they didn't care, and Air France didn't care, and I think that helped a lot. What also helped is that Obi not only had his 1.5 pills of trazodone before the trip, but one of my neighbors gave me some THC gummies from Colorado, and each of them got about 1/3 of a gummy. Both dogs got 1/3 of a gummy. And I had tested it out with Obi the night before, and it worked really well. So I figured that the other third would be great, and why not with Pippi? Because why not? She could probably get nervous too. So at that point, it's about 2.5 hours before boarding time, and there they go off on the little motorized ramp. And from now, it was time for me to race back to my rental car, return my rental car, and then come back in to the check-in line, because the reason they were asking about carry-on baggage is that I guess they've had a lot of problems with people taking incredibly heavy things on the plane, and they are watching the weight on things. So I had to get my carry-on bags weighed, and literally it was just my backpack, which had my laptop, my power bank, and my tablet, and then some books, basically. But it was heavy, right? And then my tote bag was beyond heavy, absolutely the heaviest thing on the planet. And it was about 3 pounds over. So I had two choices. I could either ditch more stuff or I could check that. I just checked it. They didn't charge me, which was fantastic, but I just couldn't get rid of any more stuff. And everything that was in that were things that were supposed to be carried on and not put into checked baggage. I didn't really stop to think about that until after they took it back. And I'm like, oh crap, there are things in there like loose batteries that were in a case, and different types of things that are not supposed to be in checked baggage anymore. It's supposed to be on carry-on. So I figured that either it would make it to the destination, or maybe they'd, take me away in chains when I got to France, or they'd pull me off the plane. But they didn't. So I had about 45 minutes to board the plane, which was such a nice gift to have that extra little time. And as soon as I got on the plane, I let the attendants up front know that I had dogs. I gave them my seat number, and they told the pilot. And then when we were just getting ready to pull back from the gate, one of them came and told me that the dogs were on board, everything was fine, they can hear them up in the cockpit the whole time. And so they will know if they're barking or whining or doing whatever it is. Apparently they have microphones pretty close to it. But she told me on the front end and on the back end that the dogs were quiet the whole time. And apparently, I didn't see it until the end when I picked up the dogs, they had a buddy there as well that looked like an Aussie cattle dog. So I was relieved that the dogs were going to be fine. I did have a small glass of champagne on the flight to celebrate making it this far. And many of you know, but possibly others of you don't know, that was about 541 days of being alcohol free. And I figured that 2 or 3 sips of champagne wasn't going to kill that. And I was absolutely blown away because the champagne was fantastic. It was very, very nice. And apparently they serve it just like they do soft drinks and water on Air France, which just made me smile. But about 2 or 3 sips into it, no joke, it tasted horrible. I love champagne. I used to love champagne. It just tasted bitter, and you could just taste the alcohol. I felt like I was drinking rubbing alcohol. So I just didn't even bother drinking the rest of it. How is that for an amazing shift from somebody who used to drink a bottle of wine or more almost every single night to drinking no more than 3 sips of a very fine champagne? Go figure. So that was the flight. We got into Paris about 9 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, the 29th, and that went really well as could be expected. I picked up my baggage, and then I went to another area of the airport. If you do take Air France, Carousel 34 is the oversized baggage and for live cargo, pets. And they were very helpful as well. At this point in time, The wheels were off because you take them off to put them on the plane. I did not have to put the wheels back on the cart on the crates, because I was able to just get carts, put the crates on the cart, and then the two gentlemen that were there watching the pets until their owners came to get them, they helped me put the crates up on the carts, and so I was able to take those to the rental car counter. It took a little bit of time because, of course, everybody is batched when they have arrivals there. So it took a little bit of some time to get the rental car, but the dogs were quiet the entire time. They were absolute prince and princess. The funniest thing about on the front end and the back end, I've been worried about Obi this entire time, of him trying to scratch and get out of his crate and chew things up and who knows what. And it was Pippi who was whining, both on the front end and on the back end. Just a whimpery whine, like I want to get out of the crate whine. Nothing bad, but Obi was the superstar and Pippi was the diva. Would not have seen that coming in a million years. So got the rental car, that all went well. I did end up leaving the crates in the parking garage with the carts. Air France had broken one of the crates. One of the handles was completely snapped off and the other one was just about ready to come off on one of the crates. And then I'm not quite sure which dog it was because I'd taken off the labels by the time we got to the parking garage, but one of them did pee all over the absorbent pad, which is what it's there for, so that it doesn't stay on them. It goes into the pad, but you could just basically smell it. And of course, it was under the absorbent pad. So I just left those there. It's like, sorry, Paris Airport, you get to throw these out. And May 29th is a federal holiday in France. It's Ascension Day. It's always, I think, the fourth Thursday after Easter. I'm not Christian, so I don't know. But it's the start of an unofficial 4-day weekend. France has a policy of, if there's holidays that are on, say, for example, a Thursday or a Tuesday, that they have a policy they call faire le pont, which basically means make the bridge, and everybody takes 4-day weekends. Sure enough, the traffic getting out of Paris took about 2.5 hours to get just from the airport on the northeast side of town to clear the Paris suburbs on the south side of town. But it was smooth sailing after that all the way to Limoges. Beautiful, beautiful country. I took the autoroute, and in France, they have service centers on the autoroute about every 40 to maybe 50 kilometers. And these things are phenomenal. They have everything you can imagine in terms of great food. They have usually regional products from wherever they are located, very fairly priced, but also really good stuff. And we were able to chill out at several of those on the way down to Limoges so that the dogs could get out and have snacks. Mom could have some coffee and some snacks, and got into Limoges probably around 5:30 or 6. Cute little place. Forgot that it was a fourth floor walk up, which was interesting. I didn't have to take too much stuff in with me because I knew that I really wasn't going to dress fancy on day 2 of travel. Beautiful sunset view from the apartment that we stayed in, an Airbnb on the top floor of this relatively small building. But what a nice way to spend the first night in France. Slept very well, got up the next morning, did a little shopping at the grocery store nearby to, again, get some coffee and some pastries for me. I did bring dog food. I brought a fairly good sized bag of dog food with me for the dogs, not just so that they would have something to eat when they got off the plane, but to mix in with their new chow here so that it tastes a little bit familiar from home. And then got down here to Castle Naudry about 3:30, close to 4 o'clock yesterday, Friday. And I met the hostess and host of this adorable little place. They were here basically putting together the new internet system, and they kind of showed me around a little bit. And while they were finalizing all that internet stuff, I headed off to the grocery store again to get stuff for dinner. So that's almost it for week 1. I'm supposed to take my rental car back to the Toulouse train station on Monday morning. But again, it's the Monday morning at rush hour after a 4-day weekend. So I think I'm going to take it back Sunday afternoon and then test myself one more time by buying a train ticket and coming back here and then walking home. So we'll see how that works. That's it. This is the longest video I've done in a really long time, and I hope that it was not too tedious. I want to say welcome also to everyone. I should have done this at the beginning, but I didn't. Sorry. So if you are still here, you're a hero. If you're one of the people that booted out after the first 5 minutes, boo hiss. But thank you all for following me on this journey. I got a lot of comments this week from people. I also got some very touching private messages and some emails, which really, really, really made the difference. This is, as I said at the very beginning, this is a really tough thing to do. I'm incredibly proud of myself that I've gotten this far. I know that in the next day or so, it's going to hit me kind of the, I don't want to say loneliness, although that's part of it, but the otherworldliness of making such a big, huge change. But for right now, it's good enough that I'm here and that it's beautiful and that everybody that I've spoken to so far in halting French and not very much English, to be honest with you, has been just very helpful and very smiling and very gracious. And I think that that's a really good harbinger of what's to come. So I will leave you the middle of this weekend with a bonjour, a bonsoir. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you again very soon. Au revoir.